Cool. So welcome to episode 6, I think it is, of the Front Row Media podcast. Again, we have another exciting guest, more like a friend as well, I'd say. Someone who I've been meaning to invite on this for. I actually almost started this. With you. But I'd like to actually welcome Raeesa to the podcast. So yeah.
Thank you, Odwa. It's so nice to finally be here.
Literally.
This has been like in talks for over a year, dude.
Like when was like peak lockdown?
Yeah, it was like
I remember because
such a blur. It was sometime first half of last year.
Yeah, I remember because at the time I was going through so much with my job. And then I think we were both like working like late nights and stuff like that. So the only time I'd actually get to message you about the podcast was like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. And then you respond like at that same time as well.
Always on.
Yeah, but I think like for this episode more than anything, it's more of like a research like analysis, I'd say, into maybe like what's happening right now in the fashion industry. Rice is very good at what she does. Super skilled and super learned, and someone who I look up to a lot in terms of just their knowledge.
Thank you.
But before I'm gonna let you actually like introduce yourself. So maybe who you are, maybe where you come from and what you do.
So I'm Raeesa Brey. I'm from Cape Town, born and raised, as I always say.
Where in Cape Town?
In the southern suburbs. Cool. So I come from an Indian heritage, and my family actually comes from, well, the family house we have is kind of where the apartheid government put us.
Oh, for real?
For real.
Yeah.
So still in that area, in the southern suburbs.
Yeah.
And so obviously looking back, actually my parents are first generation. So I'm second. And
sure.
Going into fashion, people always ask me, like, was it difficult? Did everybody want you to be a doctor or an accountant?
Yeah, I can imagine.
And the answer is actually no. I think I planted the seed very early into my parents' heads. Like in grade 8, I knew that I wanted to be in fashion because I was really good at art. And I just enjoyed art. In high school was so cool. Like the fact that I look back at high school, like you could sit in art class with your best friends with a visual diary. They give you like one project a term and you could just like flesh out. And that's where I discovered fashion actually.
So then, what's your actual profession then in the fashion industry? Like, what do you do?
So at the moment, I'm doing trend forecasting and fashion design, specifically in women's wear for a large retailer. And my past is also in there with another retailer, like all listed. So it's like really a nice environment to experiment with because you're experimenting on a huge scale. And
super niched. And my thing is, I'm like, even like the first time you told me like what you do, like I never fully understood it. And you told me that you work in like a team. You know what I'm saying? So like I know it's like collaborative form of design.
Yeah.
But I know it's not like independent as like, let's say for example, like someone who just starts up their own brand and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So how did you actually get into it?
So I studied at Fedesa. Cool. So just to tie back into high school, I did a lot of that's where I discovered like Alexander McQueen and like Victor and Rolf, and that's when he was still alive. And that was a time when fashion brands didn't have websites. I had this book which I just printed out every design. It was like an A to Z. I wish I never gave it away. I think I threw it away. Yeah. And then I realized, some companies are linked. And then I found out about LVMH. I found that time was called the Gucci Group, which is now Kering. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, like what is this industry?
Wait, the Kering were called the Gucci Group before they were called Kering?
Yeah.
Like how deep does your shit run? Like literally, like I did not even know that.
I don't know when it changed. I just know it changed. And so that was like, whoa. And then I was such a tomboy. I did every sport, was influenced. I have one sibling, which is the brother.
Sure.
And older, and just so influenced by sports. And I was always like, these sneakers are disgusting. Like these sneakers are ugly. It was so funny before we started recording, we were speaking about languages. In grade 8 or 9, I started learning German because I thought I was going to go work for Adidas and tell them that their sneaker game is so bad. Like my if I look at my grade 9 like visual diary, it's got sneaker drawings. It's before like what happened.
So you were correcting Adidas's designs in your mind even back then. So you were like, nah, like that.
I was like, I just want something cool to wear, and it wasn't even like a debate now where women's sneakers are subpar to men's in terms of sizing. It was just like there was nothing to offer. Sure. Maybe a superstar if you're lucky. It just, that culture wasn't there yet. And that's what I want. And I was like, okay, to get to where I want to be there, I need to study fashion design. And that's when I did research and found Fedesa, which we both went to.
Some later than others, some shorter than others, but definitely.
I mean, that was challenging. I met some of my best friends there.
I was actually gonna ask, I never actually got to hear your Fedesa experience. Like, just essentially, like, so you researched and you got into it, right?
So yeah, I actually didn't know they existed. I went to this amazing lady who kind of did psychometrics and was like, you should do marketing and fashion, either start off at AAA or go to Fedesa, because there wasn't many institutes who offered a degree in Cape Town. Of course, I would love to have gone to a Parsons or, Central St. Martin's, but you're looking at realistically over R1 million a year.
I'm trying to imagine like how much it must cost to go to like Central St. Martin's, for example, like CSM. It must be
unless you have a bursary, it's still very difficult, but you can make it happen. But at the time, I wasn't looking at that. I was looking at staying in Cape Town. And then I went to Fedesa, and I never knew anyone. So like on the first day, you kind of make all your like friends, and it was like Fedesa was so challenging. You either like you had to sleep, you had to work, and you had no social life for like 3 years. So those people who were in your class who you saw every day, they just became your second family.
So like Robin, Art Club and Friends, you know her well, probably.
I mean, we've been through the trenches together.
And Fedesa now, it is challenging. Like it's definitely challenging. And I only did 1 year. I did my honors there, and like even then I got there, I was sprinting like almost immediately. Like just like the briefs and just like the way it's rapid and all the preparation. But I think it was dope.
Absolutely. There's certain things that they focus on, because when I was there, they didn't actually offer the honors program. But and also it was very focused on like a couture side, like how the type of sewing you do, which I understand. Like you need to know how a garment's constructed in order to make decisions, or like understand someone else in your team who that may be their responsibility. But it's hyper focused in that sense. So like if I had to go back, I would try and like change the curriculum slightly to be a bit more business focused. So if you do have a fashion brand,
it's you for an actual, when you like what you're gonna do, like when you probably leave, which is probably gonna start your own brand.
And make sure that it's successful in this market, which is so challenging. You don't know if your business is going to be around in another season. So it's like, how do you kind of future-proof your business? I mean, I would love to go back and speak about it. I still have good relationships with them, which is great. And they've really expanded. Like, they opened a campus in Joburg.
Like the Santon one as well. Like, and it's like, I saw like the like photos and videos from the Santon one, because I was shooting when they were still building it. And I was like, this building looks like super lit. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Looks proper.
Absolutely. And even offering the diploma courses there allows like just for like a cross-pollination of ideas and people, because they weren't photography focused students before, because there was only one degree that you could get. And I've actually met like a few people just in passing taking like street style photos who are doing those like diploma courses, and they're doing really well. That's
actually how I met you. You remember? Like it was like SA Men's, right?
SA Men's Fashion Week
2018 maybe 2019, somewhere over there.
2018. Ooh.
Yeah, somewhere over there. I think early 2019.
So
and I remember because I was getting into film photography, and I saw you're holding a Pentax, or I'm not sure which film camera it was though.
It's a Fujifilm.
Yeah, but you were shooting though, like and stuff, and I was like, dude, like what are you like? What is your role here? Like, why are you with a film camera just shooting and stuff? And you were like,
it was for WGSN.
Yeah, I remember. Which we'll speak about actually.
Yes.
So, but then let's go back a bit. Like with regards to then Fedesa. So you finished. Well, so you're working, then you finished there. Now you're in a very interesting space, and I think interesting because it's the term trend forecasting, right? And again, one of the more nuanced terms in like the fashion industry, like the fashion space, and it took me some time to be able to like digest personally what that is and what it means. When I went on the WGSN website for the first time ever, like I didn't know what they did. Like, I was like, I see, right? Business of fashion, that made more sense to me. But with WGSN, I was like, I see there's something, but I'm not sure what it is.
Absolutely.
So what would you say is trend forecasting? Like maybe talk us a bit through that.
So I also had a very similar experience to you, as in I didn't know WGSN existed until I went to Fedesa and we had access to it. Yeah. So WGSN is the lead trend forecasting company in the world in terms, and they deliver on fashion forecasting, food, beauty, lifestyle, interior, and also do bigger business insight. And when I realized, I can't even tell you the feeling I had when I was like, there's like a level above designer, because I was like, can I swear?
Yeah, go for it.
I was like, shit. Like, there's someone telling Karl Lagerfeld what to do. I thought things just
I thought like he was like his boss.
And like, I was so shocked. I was like, I didn't know that there's these people who are these tastemakers or pick up on, essentially they're curating and digesting information, not just visual. It's looking at the economy, it's looking at politics, it's looking at what the future consumer wants, and then packaging it for businesses to digest and say, yes, this is relevant for my company, or no, it's not, and I think my customer would like it. And that's why if you walk into a Zara, if you walk into Woolworths, or I don't know, even something in like architectural scene, you'll see a similar common thread, because that is what the consumer wants now, which was predicted 2 to 5 years ago, because nothing just happens overnight. Production takes a long time. If you like clothes, you must always look at fabric. Fabric is the first thing to be made, and that's like 3 years ahead of time. So maybe you'll see everybody wearing corduroy now. Like those things had to be woven in Korea or China, wherever it was made, 5 years ago. They always say, if you look at it's really sad, but if you look at the color of the rivers in those countries, you'll know what the next color of the year is going to be, because it's being dyed.
I feel you.
And so essentially trend forecasting will put it into context, and you must keep in mind that you have it's broken down into macro trends, micro and nano trends, right? And then actually on top of micro is paradigm. So like paradigm would be huge changes like the internet, which will affect us for 50 to like 100 years. I'd say maybe COVID, I'd say COVID would be
I don't think, like, I will literally I will eat my hat if anyone, any trend forecaster can tell me right now that they predicted that like something like COVID would come about. Like that would be like the craziest amount of forecasting.
I don't think there's strict evidence to someone have like the impact that it had with the whole world stopped. No, I have not read anything but nothing has, I haven't seen anything that's changed dramatically in terms of what was forecasted. Like WGSN coined the term like athleisure in 2012.
I'm not gonna lie to you, like a lot of WGSN like insights are like spot on.
And it's
literally
different things accelerated at different speeds, and some things pulled back because of the pandemic. I'm speaking in terms of the pandemic. And it's just knowing what to feed at the right time. And I work in a South African context, which some things are faster than others, but usually we are a bit slower to be trend adopters, because we need confirmation from overseas, which hopefully will change. I believe like in maybe even millennials and below, to like down to Gen Z, Gen Alpha, being just stronger in their opinion, like not needing to see some American person wear a trend, and then feel confident that in the next summer season I can wear that. You don't need that. I believe that trend is moving to like just being so personal and being just self-expressive.
And I think it's especially like for the fact that like a lot is like just like COVID has kind of like meant that like the light is kind of like shined on Africa. Like, and specifically even like maybe in our context with South Africa, like, and I don't know, like maybe speak about a couple of maybe like trends, or maybe like what's interesting you like right now. Like I just thought like when you're speaking like now, I'm seeing a lot of people wear like the Tebe Magugu like knitted sweaters, but like the shirts though. You know what I'm saying? Shirt. Like, but I'm seeing it like a lot like from like a global level. And I feel as if like thing is like that shirt in itself, when it's silhouette, it's not quite conventional. It's like it kind of like it's a shirt which really like means something, not even from a price point perspective, but from like a silhouette in general. So now I'm seeing everyone like with the logos that they really like, and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
so Logomania has been a trend. I mean, it's come and gone before in the early 2000s, even before that, and it's coming back in a sense that for your brand to have any source, like if somebody wants to wear your brand and wants to show that you're wearing it, that speaks to the consumer. across the globe. You can look at Gucci's monogram print,
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton's. You can look at our Club and Friends' sweatshirt that we all wear with the A on it.
Exactly.
Like, you want to be proud and represent, like, on a local or huge international level. So when you speak about Tevi Magugu's it's knit, and it's very reminiscent of sport.
Yeah.
Because it's the golf collar, it speaks to even his V-neck one, the pullover jersey. It's very like country club, cricket, you know.
It's like Wanda's like stuff, like Wanda Leporto, like his like a lot of his stuff, for example. I think there's this one knitted like sweater, but like it's crazy amounts of pink.
Yes.
Like it's like a powdery pink.
Yes.
Like that shit is fire. Like I need that. And like the orange one as well with like the green, I think as well. I'm like, it's that shit is fire for real. Like I need that.
All stems to when these forecasters predict these things. So they'll predict paradigm, they'll predict macro, and then they'll whittle it down into what is seasonal, and they'll break it up into kids, men's, women's, youth, and I could go back and bring up the confirmation now that everyone's wearing it, of these like sports kind of elements that are coming into like fashion, especially the knitwear that could even have like a cable knit to it. And when you look at that, if you think of just the psychology behind that, it's about feeling like you're part of a team. It's like the feeling you're part of your community.
Gotcha.
And that is like the deep psychological thought that has gone into it by WGSN and lots of other, like I can even give some examples. Like you get Lee Edelkoort used to come all the time to design in Dabo. Always recommend going to her talks if anyone can go, if Indaba ever comes back.
I was speaking to Thing about, like, with Robin about it, actually, like, when she
presented it.
Yeah, she was designing Indaba, like, Emerging Creative, I think for, like, was it last year, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, last year was the last one.
The last year when it actually was around.
Yeah, and it was crazy because that's when COVID was getting real. It was end of March, and then Lee Edelkoort got trapped here.
Oh.
She actually quarantined until they could leave, which was months.
Is that like, I think that's like the lady who's like, I think she's is she from?
She's from Amsterdam.
These Nordic countries, right?
Yeah, she's from the Netherlands. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But she's got so her company's called Train Tablet. So if anybody wants to go research that, you can go. You can go look at that, and her work actually been going for like a few years to her talks, and it's quite nice that afterwards you can go speak to them afterwards. And I used to be like, you should change your information to be more relevant to the South African audience you're presenting. And she like looks at me. I'm like, no, you can't just bring European. Not everything European can be adapted here. And I've seen that from my job where I'm not gonna say the names, but they have about 3-4 million people, even more on credit. So you got strong data. And when you people are like, oh, isn't your job just going to Zara and copying and putting it back in, like into our stores? I'm like, no, because if you do that, it just won't sell. Your business will burn. Like, we have such a strong identity, which isn't reflected very often in these international forecasters. But I'll get to it later about more of the WGSN things that I'm doing, and just making,
because that stuff is super exciting.
Them aware of that, what we need for us, because now everyone's looking at South Africa. I mean, look at the LVMH prize. We have 2019 Tevi Magugu, Cindy.
You think Logomania will win it this year? I hope he does.
Man, I hope he does. Logomania, the sweetest, the most deserving person,
literally.
And I'm just like, when is Rich gonna go for it? Like, Rich Mnisi will eat it up. I'm saying next year. Like,
I think I remember like the one time I think I was in Clark's, if I'm not mistaken.
That's where Logomania.
Yeah, exactly. I was in Clark's like the one time, and then I'm chilling with like a homie of mine. He's like, isn't that Logomania?
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you saying, bro? And I look up and I'm like, it's really Logomania.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
So down to earth.
Spoke to him so down to earth. Like, and I think more than anything, I like how like considered his design process is like not only to speak about the materials, but also to speak about like his color palette.
Absolutely.
Like his silhouettes. Like, and my thing is, it's dope to see someone who actually has developed over time.
Absolutely.
Like, that's a nice thing I like about like African designers. You see them where they currently are, and then you see like as the years trickle, like how better they are. Absolutely. Like, I look at some of Tebe's stuff. I was actually having a random thought the other day. I look at some of Tebe's stuff, and I'm like, I don't think there are many right now who are better than you. Like, you know what I'm saying?
He's got such a strong story, and like the prints that he uses, I love the prints, and also that he brings in like other local collaborators, like Ethan with the Katleho ceramic jewelry, or Crystal Birch with her hats. Like he's not doing it alone.
Imagine if you got Crystal Birch on this podcast with the hats. Like that would be.
I'm sure you can.
Yo, that would be crazy. If you're watching this, like, hit us.
I think why not?
Hit us up. Like literally, like those things. Those hats are like a pandemic here in Cape Town. Like literally, like they love them. Like they are everywhere.
Oh, so didn't she like make those hats that had a visor for kids?
Yes.
Like at the beginning of the pandemic, like
Yes.
that was like she
That was the
reacted
most
very
iconic-
well.
It was
to-
iconic stuff. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's only a few places in Cape Town you could go find her. You can just like hang out at a few
That's the
the
thing.
drinking holes and just,
that's the thing. We have to follow the Instagram account to see where they stocked.
yeah, just go to PNG after it.
Yeah,
like,
you see
on
where
the
they
ride.
stock. You're like, okay, cool. There, I'm gonna pull up there. But then, yeah, like with let's maybe then talk a bit about like your like actual like work, like day to day, like what like, or like the more like the responsibilities you'd say, for example.
Yep.
Like you work in a team, I'm assuming a small team or a big team.
I'm
or
working in quite a small team now. I came from a previously very large team, but so it's really fun.
Yeah.
The last year has
Sounds
been very
fun.
very challenging.
Yeah.
For South African retail, everyone globally had a different lockdown, but during hard lockdown, clothing stores were not considered essential. So they were closed down, and to cut out a month of just like any revenue, unless you, obviously there was an online store.
Crazy.
South Africans aren't very online, like not savvy. Savvy is not the right word.
But like
inclined. It
I
comes
know,
down to
I'm
skepticism.
not.
It
Like,
come-
I put my credit card details or like my bank card details there like all the time. I'm like, I prefer brick and mortar like
Yeah.
sometimes. Or
And
most
also
time.
to take into consideration that not everyone has a laptop or desktop. It's like most of South Africans work on their smartphone, and it's not easy to check out or to make a big purchase on your phone, which I completely understand. So revenues like dropped, and restructures were happening, which happens all the time in corporate. And
Ooh, I just thought of a super interesting question to ask you, and I've been waiting to ask this question to someone who I feel as if like can answer it.
okay, hold on to that thought.
I'm holding on to it right now, but it popped into my head.
But like I just want to say that no 2 days are the same ever. Like I came here, I think my day was over, and just like came in with my laptop sending last minute changes.
Yeah.
But essentially, I look after a few brands, and I got a team who supports me, and it's growing slowly, which is really great. And it's really nice because in my the past year and a half that I've been there, we launched 2 new brands. One we launched during a pandemic, doing it digitally.
That's dope.
Like to react to people needing more athleisure, as you were speaking about how the athleisure trend has exploded, and just giving the people what they want at the right time, and trying to voice your opinion in a room a room full of people who I used to think was intimidating. Now I realize how important my voice is, and making those design decisions. I literally have my eyes and ears are just like open and listening all the time. I actually have like multiple Instagram accounts, which I just use for research, because I have my personal one, which can be overwhelming with people's like personal stories, but then I have one for fashion.
Also gets a bit messed up.
The algorithm is so crazy. And I have one just for fashion, one just for food, one just for like all different things, so I can keep my eyes like really like pin them down. And then, I love TikTok. TikTok's so cool. For me, my algorithm is like so good right now. Like,
TikTok really like the wave, like.
Dude, I have to get back into making TikToks, but it's so fun. I feel like you guys could do something.
It's encouragement over there, gentlemen. Like,
absolutely.
We've been having the TikTok chat, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
well, you mustn't miss the boat.
I saw Lily Yachty doing a TikTok thing over there. I was like, it seems like my vibe. Like, I could enjoy this.
It's so, the content creation on TikTok is unbelievable, and even the South African creators are really good as well. But there's something about, obviously you're giving your information to China. We've given all our information to Mark Zuckerberg, and just obviously being aware of that. Some people are wary of it, but TikTok's so amazing in discovering new talent. Listening, all the music people are listening to. I walk into stores, I'm like, do these people know this is all like TikTok, like famous songs?
That's crazy. I know one artist, BK the Ruler, like one of her songs, Tweaking Together, like literally blew up because of TikTok. Like Gen Z was just like, this is the vibe. Like,
and they don't
this is
care.
what we're on.
They don't care if it's 7 years old, like Willow Smith's obviously I forgot the name, but one of his songs from like 6-7 years ago just went platinum now because TikTok found it.
Probably because of the other song that she had, which was in like a grunge, like punk, like look. So they were like, okay, cool, she's hot now. Let's look at the backs of. Oh,
and I mean, like Doja
fire.
Cat wouldn't be as successful as she is if it wasn't for like. But I regress. Back to my job. I look at that and I push it, and I'll go to like the marketing teams and be like, where is our presence on TikTok? Going back to social, and I not only do I work with like the fabrics, and essentially I'm a designer in my corporate job, and I help the buying team, which is made up of buyers, merchandisers. That's where all the money is, right?
Yeah.
And they get given, they know what their targets are. They get, and obviously during this time, you need to minimize risk as much as possible. We're bringing a lot of production onto South African shores, so you can react quickly. And if it's coming from China or India, sometimes you have to book it 6, 7, 8 months in advance, and that's very difficult to pull the plug on when it's like on a ship, like it's coming.
So it's kind of like, so your role would really entail working with this team of like buyers, this team of like
having strong relationships with buyers, having strong relationships with your buying managers who trust you, your ideas and your process to move the brand forward, and also just keeping in mind who the customer is, because especially being in Cape Town, a lot of the big retailers are here. You can be put in your own bubble and you don't actually know what the greater country is wanting or what they are looking for, and just like removing yourself, like check your kind of ego at the door when you walk in, and put your hat on. That's like the nicest challenge for me, because like I just see myself as a chameleon. Like someone can put me in any brand. It's more the process for me. I don't make it personal.
I think it's very similar to me. It's like you can put on different hats.
Absolutely, and that's what you should be, right? That's how you kind of that's how you learn the most. You just open yourself up to learning and trying to become not irreplaceable, but just kind of future-proof yourself, and never know where it's going to go. And I've just like learned so much, mate. Really, there are so many people always put off from corporate, especially at a fashion school, because everybody wants their own brand. Everyone I don't believe that when 70 people graduate, 70 new brands should come into like.
I also don't believe that.
Like, because then where's the sustainability in that? Like, where is the there need to be people help. And one thing I've learned about corporate is that some of the most talented, insightful people are there, and as long as you learn, like, go just be a sponge. Be a chameleon and a sponge.
So okay, I was into a podcast actually on that, and it was a podcast, The Cutting Room Floor, like with Rachel, and then she's interviewing, I think, or talking to one of the Nike managers.
Wow.
So I think from like that podcast, it was an hour and 20 minutes or something, but I really got to understand Nike as an organization, like from top down, and from like Nike Women's to Nike SB, like skateboarding to like, I don't know, like Nike basketball, and like apparently like how
Jordan, whole other
like how vast also like Nike Women's is, and how many layers, and like a lot of the times it reminded me of like the previous company which I worked for, which is an investment company, like in terms of like how layered it is and stuff, but like it's just like in the fashion space.
There's so many intricacies which may not even be seen, may not even be digested by the customer when they walk into the stores, but it's so strategically planned, and you have people even high up, like at exco level, making sure that the company is moving in the right direction, and you're using the intel. I mean, I speak from a very visual fashion side when I say WGSN, but you do get the big consulting companies who will help and move the business in the right direction.
And like Accenture, or like those kind of like trend forecasting, like the ones which do it like for not like for everyone, essentially, like not just niche in like a specific.
And then like the
industry.
Management consultants, like the Bains and the McKinseys of the world, who will come in and tell you where to optimize your business, but obviously move it forward. Everybody
got you.
It's just being like making sure everything's at the right time, like in the right place at the right time. It's so much easier said than done.
Basically,
this whole industry is built on.
What would you then say like would be like the, because I really wanted to understand from like the WGSN the Future Makers Program.
Yes.
Like with that, because of course, like I'm not sure if, well, probably most people don't know, but then you were selected to be part of that program. And like I even applied and I wasn't selected, so like essentially no, but only like because I applied for a lot of things, but like I think it was dope when I saw you get selected, because I was like, A, someone I know, and B, someone who can ask, what happens there. Like, very curious mind. So like what is the Future Makers Program with?
So I'm gonna take it a bit further back, because it's actually quite wild. When I used to work in my previous corporate job, I used to go in super early in the morning. I'm a morning person, so I used to be there like before 7, go read all the WGSN new articles, go read like all the other, there's Promosteel, there's Pecklers, there's so many other forecasters. So I used to get, I'm a nerd. I'm a fashion nerd.
I thought I was a nerd. Not like
And then I used to be like, oh my God, like this report is so good. Oh, there's a name on it. Let me just quickly find them on Instagram. This was like, I don't know, 5 years ago, and I used to find them and just like follow them, and like these are my favorite report writers I would follow. And then I left my previous corporate job, and then I DM'd this one strategist, and I was like, listen, if you ever need anything from South Africa, like literally hit me up. And then she did, and that's when I got the street style gig. That's what led me to meet you, right? And that was very short, because it was like 6 months, because then I got my now corporate job and I left that behind.
I remember you did.
And then I applied for the Future Makers Program. And at the time, the lady who got me the street style gig, I was like, I'm going to work for her one day. Like, she is the most amazing mind. Our paths will cross. And then
it's gonna happen.
I applied for the Future Makers Program. They even pulled the deadline by a month forward, and I was like, shit, I didn't apply yet. I stayed up that whole night till like 4 a.m. doing my application, and then I had an interview with that lady.
Really?
Her name's Sarah Owen, who is now my mentor.
I'm not gonna lie to you, like I actually had a look at the Instagram page and I listened to essentially like her short video, I think it was, when she was speaking about like, I think it was like last year's video. So it's crazy, that's your mentor.
She's my mentor now. That's, and it's wild. Like 3-4 years ago I was like, I'm gonna work with her. Like, really, she doesn't know me, but it's gonna happen. And so the mentorship program started off the back of Black Lives Matter, because they looked at what they're doing as a company. They're like, we need to give back, and so they started the first one. So I'm not sure when they will have another intake, probably around July, August. So we're still under the mentorship program, and it's been absolutely incredible. It's the first one, so there's obviously lots of like, there's no benchmark, but it's...
Where's she based? Like,
so she is actually based in Lisbon, in Portugal. Her team is in New York. So she's the only one in Lisbon, which they made like special like they actually, like, she's the only one, then they made sure that it can work. And but their big head office is in London, and they also have in like Hong Kong. So these people in LA, so you need to know that that's really hectic time zones to manage. But she has actually since left WGSN, and after 10 years being there, she was a senior strategist for Insight, which is a lot of the behavioral and like consumer analysis side.
A lot of what she said in the video actually happened. Like, it's crazy watching it a year afterwards, and I'm like, ma'am, like, it really actually
She's absolutely amazing. Is going to do so many great things in the world. And so I have gotten a new mentor, but I'm still obviously in contact with her. I presented something for them this week, and on South Africa, which was really cool.
That's dope.
And
representing us
absolutely
on that global platform. That's
absolutely.
Like what we actually need.
So I'm gonna hopefully do more little reports for Africa as a whole, but obviously I specialize in South Africa. I will deep dive further if I have to do more specifics on other African countries. But coming back to Future Makers, you'll have like not everyone's in the designer trend forecasting sphere like world as I am. Some people would like to be in HR. Some people want to do production, and they would pair people up with people who wanted to become mentors. So the mentees and mentors were paired up so amazingly, and when doing that, like, we'll have a session with the head of HR, and she would make sure your CV is right, your LinkedIn looks good. Then you could have one-on-one interviews with her.
I mean, that's exactly like, those are like tangible skills.
Absolutely.
Especially for creatives.
And then there was also, there have been so many, like, what is trend forecasting? Or like a session just on color, which is a whole world on its own. Like, you could have a whole series on just color.
What's that, like, is it the Pantone? Yeah,
Pantone.
The Pantone, the color.
I actually had my book, but I left it at home now. I was just like, if I can't be walking around with such a valuable bag, I'm not gonna lie,
that's the coolest stuff I think about, like, fashion designers and students as well. Like, the way you guys have those that actually is dope. I'm not gonna lie.
Pantone's literally just a color language. So
like, it's like a completely different universe, and then you just see all of that, and I'm like, wow. That's like that's like the agreed upon Big Mac index for color.
And it's also based on different substrates. So the one I would use would be a cotton planner. So it would be, all the colors will be dyed on cotton, whereas someone who does I don't know, maybe they design toys, it'll be in plastic. Or the ones in paper, like people who do graphic design will do the paper ones. So because this color is not the same if I the Pantone number for this, it's not the same on paper, it's not the same on plastic, or even in polyester, which is always like if I have to go back to work, they'll be like, oh, Raeesa, this color didn't come out as, I'm like, yes, because we looked at cotton, this is now printed on polyester, completely different. Even wool, like, everything reacts differently. And Pantone, and there's a new company called Katleho, who also which got acquired by WGSN. They is the international color language. So if I speak to a supplier in India, I'll be like, this is my number, and that's how we speak the same language.
I was like, it's so dope. I'm like, rap songs could be talking about the exact same. I'm like, I get what you're saying, dude. Like, it's that, like, that's it.
I mean, you can even like trademark colors, like the Valentino red or the Christian Louboutin, like,
is the Valentino, is it patented?
I mean, hello, the Fedesa red's like being like registered.
I didn't actually think about that. I didn't think about the fact you could actually like patent or like take off, like, you can't use that.
I don't know if they did it through Pantone. I'm talking about Fedesa, but certain colors have been like,
the Fedesa red is very
Tiffany
like,
pink, Tiffany blue,
Tiffany blue,
not pink. Or now yellow. Did you see they started moving to yellow?
I didn't. I was gonna then ask, so if then, like, that's the case, like, let's say for example Valentino, let's say, like, patent like that color, like, so do people like not know the code for that color? Because I mean, if I knew the code, then surely like whatever the numbers, I'd be able to get it like myself.
I don't think theirs is actually Pantone. I think they obviously have a chemical, like, well, they know the chemicals that makes up the pigments that make up that specific red.
A secret formula.
A secret formula. Yeah, I don't think Pantone. I don't think it's owned by Pantone. Because you can also just mix your own color, right? And they know the ingredients for that color. There's actually when I was at Fedesa, we went to visit a plant called Rotex in Atlantis, so it's like an hour outside Cape Town, and they'll like mix their own color to dye the fabrics, because they'll supply lots of people with like t-shirt materials, and so you can actually see it in action, like how it's like a lab.
That's crazy.
It's literally a lab, and they'll mix the pigment and then dye the fabric. So like, that's how it works.
And I was definitely not going to forget this question. So the question...
Yeah, the question... I was going to go back to it. I was like, what was the question you want to ask?
Definitely, like... And my thing is, like, you're the first person that I thought about, like, right now, who's, like, in the retail space in fashion. That, like, I know, like, you know, like that.
Yeah.
So, like, one of, like, the terms which really interested me that I came across in fashion school last year, and I'm sure, like, a lot of fashion students or people who are just interested in retail and fashion will probably have come across, is, like, the retail apocalypse, right? Like, it's kind of like a thing of like, yo, do we still shop retail like now, like, or do we don't really buy our stuff at like the mall, like type, you know what I'm saying? Like, and people, of course, like, well, this like certain like side, this left-wing side or whatever you might call it, says essentially that no, retail is dying, it's COVID now, things going online, who even goes to like the store like nowadays, etc. Where do your like thoughts lie with that? Like, and it's interesting because you work in retail.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
so I can see numbers.
Yeah. So like you have more context. And I've always wondered. I'm like, because a lot of retailers were able to either a lot of clothes, right? But some were also able to strengthen their positions.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
If not even get even stronger. So what's really the chat behind that? What's your take around?
I'm glad you asked the question because I was actually thinking about it driving here.
Really?
That I wanted to speak about it because that's like a unique perspective that I could bring. You know,
got it.
Always on the same wavelength.
Yeah. Got it.
So coming back to very emotive language like a retail apocalypse, it's kind of clickbaity, right?
It's so clickbaity.
And I despise things like that. Like, are you telling me people aren't gonna consume in any way? Maybe their habits would change. Literally, I mean, there's some facts behind like our generation not being as prosperous as our parents, like being one of the first time in history that we have less money than the previous generation. So take that into account, that people therefore cannot spend as once predicted or thought. So people are buying less. My personal philosophy is less but better. And when looking at it, obviously people couldn't spend during certain times of lockdown. Things shifted to people buying food and like literally looking after your health. The most important thing last year was for you to come out alive. Your health was like tops. People were spending on like vitamin C or masks, right? And when it comes to what they were actually wearing from a fashion perspective, you were at home. People were buying tracksuits, t-shirts, or like blankets. And if you had a child, you were trying to clothe your growing child, not yourself. You have a cupboard full of clothes. And I believe like that was always going to happen. People were going to start thinking, do I need this? And previously retailers were like, this is a new trend and it's only going to be for this season. And then it dies out and makes you feel bad because the next season comes and you feel outdated. Now, it's pretty much common knowledge. When you present in like retail, we're like, is this a timeless piece? Like, this is like my conversation almost every day. I'm like, is this, I call it evergreen. Is this an evergreen item? Like, can people wear it in summer and winter? Can they wear it 5 years from now? Like, I wear things like these shoes I bought like 4 years ago. They're like I don't care.
Gotcha.
As long as it's like, what is the function behind it? People are now asking it because when they have to fork out, I don't know, like any amount of money, they want to see the value in it. They want to see how it's going to be used. It's not going to be a lavish item unless it's like a wedding dress. I guess that's like a once-off piece. But like if you're attending a wedding, as like if you which I recently did, I was like, I have a dress that I wore like 3 years ago. No one's going to remember me wearing it. I don't need another one because I'm not going to wear it again.
Value retail basically will never die.
It's value. It's like, what is your intention? Can it last long? And there is no such thing as a retail apocalypse. Like, everything's changing. Different retail segments want different things, and you just have to open your eyes and listen to them. A lot of the time now, your consumer is literally telling you, like in an Instagram comment, this is what I want. Like, why don't you make like plus sizes? Or I want this in pink. Or like, it doesn't matter how big or small your business is. People are literally giving feedback all the time, and if you listen and you deliver like in a good to your standard, you don't have a problem. And I feel like lots of people were never open to feedback, or they feel like, this is my idea, I want to give up my my vision for my brand. No, listen to the people who end up going to buy it. And that's like just leaving your ego at the door. And that's how I feel fashion is changing. Fashion used to be positioned as this very like egotistical, devil wears Prada, don't talk to me. And I'm like, it's changed. And that old guard is falling, it's gone, and as it should be.
Got it.
So that is like my
and
answer.
I think probably like have like maybe like a minute or so like left, but I have to ask you this question, like literally. So have you super quick with this one? Like, what is like the one? Because I'm asking this for all of like the fashion aficionados out there. What is the one trend which you feel as if will probably come back very soon if it hasn't come back? One which excites you though, one which you actually like.
That I actually like.
Yeah, like which is either in play right now, which is gonna get bigger, or one which you think might, or you'd want to maybe see.
So it's coming back really quickly. It's like the Y2K early 2000s, you know, think on a mood board, you see Paris
Yo,
Hilton,
I just went
Lindsay
to
Nicole
I
Richie.
just went to a party.
I don't exactly think I can wear it, but the mindset is what I love. It's the people like, I don't care, I'm gonna wear leggings with a dress over it, Swarovski crystal up, and with whack things. People didn't take photos, but I'm just like, and like with your flip phone, I'm like, that mentality of like, I'm gonna do whatever makes me feel good. Like, that is like, you have an aesthetic, but it's that feeling that goes with it. This fly wants to turn.
Literally just went to like a 21st and the theme was 2000s.
Yeah.
I went as like Avril Lavigne. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, like it's that. It's people would just express themselves through what they wore, mix and match, and that's like
fire.
That's like
that was a good one.
It's coming. It's here.
So first of all, like, I'd like to say, even on a Friday, thank you so much for Friday in the rain.
In the rain.
Literally, like, thank you for putting up. Like, it's always good talking to you. Always super insightful.
Glad we made it happen after like
exactly,
so long.
Exactly, yeah. And I think just like I'm keen to even have you like on, just maybe even again in the future, just purely because you provide such a fresh insight in terms of what's going on. And yeah, good luck with everything. There's a lot of exciting things I'm sure that are happening, and I hope those go well.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Definitely will be back. Thanks, guys.
Cool. So like that's it for the Front Row Media podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. Please subscribe, like, leave a comment, and we'll be back with the next exciting guest very soon. Ciao.
Bye.